Hi guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and if you want to see more of this content, hit that subscribe button. It's a bit bright today, and I'm just going to wipe this mark. There we go. So today I'm going to be reviewing Predictably Irrational. Now, Predictably Irrational is a book that you can either read, great, or listen to on audio books. So I listened to it on Audible, really good, really easy, really interesting because you can do it while you're doing other things. And I wanted to talk to you today about what I thought about this book. So I'm going to save what I thought about it and give it a rating right at the end. So if you want to see my rating for the book, stay tuned for that. But the main points that I want to talk to you about today are probably one of the funniest openers to any chapter of a book that I've listened to so far, is essentially talking about paying people to masturbate and then to answer questions that essentially test their morals and ethics. Now, other than a hilarious way to start a video, which is exactly what it was, it essentially wanted to highlight a couple of things, and I wrote down some points here so I could remember them. Yeah, so one of the points is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So essentially, what it tries to highlight to us is we all try to be very rational, and we think that that's how we are. We can be rational individuals. But humans aren't completely rational. They're irrational, but not just randomly irrational, predictably irrational. So by studying what people do and how people do those things, we can then start to create a picture of why, and then start to predict these things, which makes our lives easier, everyone's lives easier, and all that kind of stuff. So the experiment that I want to talk to you about today, which is about masturbation and ethical decisions, is essentially, let's wait for that motorbike to go past. Essentially what the experiment did is it wanted to test how people think they're going to react in normal situations when the conditions are fine, and how they think they're going to react when their emotions and their testosterone, all that kind of stuff is elevated. So what they did is they asked university students some questions. Would you have a fight? Would you have sex without a condom? Would you do all this kind of stuff? And they answered quite predictably, like no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that. That's not correct. All that kind of stuff. And then what they did is they got them to do another set of questions, and they asked them these questions when they were sexually aroused. So they got them to essentially masturbate, but as they were in the process of, or before they were in the process of doing that, they had a couple of questions pop up on the laptop where they were looking at these like sexually suggestive images. And there was a really interesting thing that happened. When they were answering the questions without any arousal, they were very logical, very predictable. When they were answering the questions when there was a heightened level of arousal, their answers were completely different. And not only were the answers completely different, the individuals, when they were asked, how do you think you will react in this situation, had no idea. They were like 70% wrong. They couldn't predict how they were going to react. And one of the comparisons that the book talks about is a similarity between Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I think if we actually, if we think about this, slow it down a little bit, I think we can all relate to that. How do you react when, the stress is high? How do you react in, fight situations? How do you react in argument situations? How do you react in confrontation situations? And typically, we don't react how we'd like to react. Or we think we'll react one way and we end up reacting a completely different way. And one way that we can think about this is it's kind of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And it actually says that's why that book was written, because of the inability for people to predict how they are actually going to react in a situation when compared to reality. And I suppose, the 1, 2, 3 is, this is what happens. That's what it's like, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And then think, how can we apply that to our own lives to make life easier? Well, one way we can do that, as suggested in the book, is to understand that we will react differently when the situation and the stress and the tension and the erotic pressure is higher. We will react differently than we think. So what we can do is we can, before these things happen, decide what we're going to do when they happen and set, boundaries in place. So instead of saying, oh, I won't buy, lots of things on my credit card, and then, when you really want to, you just buy them. Make it harder for yourself to buy those things. Hide the credit card. Don't put yourself in situations where you could be, sexually more promiscuous than you'd like to be. And I suppose in terms of work as well, when we have those situations, where bosses or, co-workers are less than ideal or make us feel like we want to act in a certain way, whoa, take a step back. You're not going to react how you'd like to react. Walk away from the situation, come back with a clear head. And I think that's really interesting to think about, because if we know that we're generally irrational, we can plan for this kind of stuff, and we can say, hey, look, I like chocolate cake. If I'm around chocolate cake all the time, I'm going to eat the damn chocolate cake. But if I don't want to eat the chocolate cake, I'm going to take myself away from the chocolate cake. Now, that's, I'm kind of like into my healthy eating at the moment, so for me, that's something that I'm trying to do, is take myself away from those situations that are more likely to make me do things I don't want to do, because it is predictably irrational. One of the other parts that he talks about is how free as a concept, so the second part I'm going to talk to you about today is free as a concept. So Amazon, when they said free delivery, their orders went through the roof, apart from in one area in France. And they were thinking, oh, that's funny. Why is that? And the reason that was is because in France they'd given like a 10p or a £1, 10p, 10 euro, a small 10 cent, whatever it's called, charge. Now that was enough to make people not want to buy the products. However, when they reduced that and reduced it to the magic 0, orders went through the roof. So when we're thinking about how do we leverage this predictable irrationality, if we're selling things, give it away for free. People will go above and beyond to get free things, whereas if there's a slight marginal cost, they'll avoid it like the plague. So that's an interesting takeaway that I got from the book as well. A couple of the interesting chapters that I'll run you through before I give you my rating of this book is the truth about relativity. So people compare A plus A. People compare things that are similar, and if there's a comparison between two things that are similar and one thing that is different, people will most likely take the better of the two similar things rather than the one thing on its own, because they have nothing to compare it with. So essentially, what the book says, if you're going out, go out with someone that looks a little bit like you, but a worse version. Because when people compare you, they'll see that you're the best, and they'll choose you more often than not. It might be a little bit worse for your friend, but that's how you can leverage this. Another thing that we can talk about is the endowment effect. We tend to overvalue things that we own simply because we own them. And the last point that I'll leave you on is our irrationality is not completely irrational, it's predictable. So if you want to understand why you act in certain ways in certain situations, simply look into the environment, the people you're with, and all that kind of stuff. And if you don't like what you're doing and who you're with, change those things, and it's most likely that you will be able to change the outcomes. So my rating for this book is, it's a solid 7.5 out of 10. Now the reason that it's a 7.5 out of 10 is because super applicable, really interesting, and it's quite an easy listen. So if you want to know more about human psychology, marketing, all that kind of stuff, I definitely recommend that you have a look at this book, listen to the audiobook, and yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and if you like this content, if you want to see more, if you want to know about personal development, learning, Chinese, self-development, all that kind of stuff, jobs, interviews, whatever, hit that subscribe button, and you'll see more content like this. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.